right?
Compared to what?
Compared to China.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the example. Again, our subway system, yeah, it runs 24 hours in New York, right?
Mm.
But
In Beijing, it doesn't.
in Beijing, it doesn't, right?
Right.
But in which I learned the hard way many times, but that's for another story. Um, but how old are the New York City subways, right? They're very old.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Beijing is constantly updating
Updating its
their
very
subway.
latest technologies they're using, right?
Yes, and they are a lot safer. In America, you're hearing now the stories where people are being pushed into the subway tracks. Okay, uh, this doesn't happen here in China. Obviously, it can happen, but if you were to look at the subway lines, or at least on any Asian subway line, it's very difficult to push someone over because there's a whole gate that goes through. So again, when it comes to infrastructure like that, in Beijing, they have a great bus and cab system. Okay, they have something called DDs. Okay, we have Ubers in America or Lyft in America, but here in Beijing they have Didi. They used to have Uber before,
Yeah.
but something happened
They're
with
doing
it.
their own company now.
Yeah, and then so now they have Didi, and Didi is great.
Yes.
Like the pricing on Didi, I personally don't know how they make money. So, but Didi's, the bus transportation subway,
Amazing. Yeah.
amazing system here in
user-friendly.
Beijing. Very user friendly. Like you just use an app for most of these things, and you get them in English. So again, Hassan already knows this. I don't speak Chinese.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm starting to get better at it these days, but
No, you don't have to, because now you're used to the system here, right? You know how things work here. But I also like, people think China is it's not a small country. It's a very big country, right?
yeah,
So
huge.
even things differ within China. There's so many different things, but overall, I would say, like, I love being here just because I've got so many. I've never worked anywhere but in China. Like, I started my company here 2006, and it's been like almost 20 years. I never worked anywhere. I came to study here and then opened my own travel company, and since then I've been doing it. Before, I was kind of sending Chinese tourists to different countries. I have offices in Middle East, Asia, African countries, of course, in South Asia, and recently I opened new office in Europe, starting from Greece. So I was doing this business groups and delegations, even government delegations and all. Like, now I'm trying to promote foreigners coming to China. So I'm getting some groups from Iran, from Morocco, from Egypt, from India, from Pakistan, from Sri Lanka. So all this country. So that's why I'm trying to get them the right kind of news, and right kind of information, because most of the time, the moment they think it's China, oh, it's very dangerous, it's not safe. But I want to tell them, I think it's one of the most safest countries in the world, right? It's so safe. You can go anywhere you want to do. Yes. So we could talk about the problem that we have: language. I keep telling my uh, tourists and the delegation exhibition that come here that language is a big barrier. You go anywhere, you won't be able to talk. But of course, you have apps. I tell them that if you are coming as a traveler or coming as a business person, then you hire a guide or interpreter, right? That will be great. Otherwise, China is extremely safe. It's very developed, and people are extremely, incredibly kind, right?
When you talk about the language aspect, and I can definitely 100% agree with you on that.
Okay.
That the language barrier is extremely high. Um, in
Not
many
only in the smaller places, in big cities.
yeah, in the Beijing, they'll say you could literally type online, "Do people speak English in Beijing?" It will say yes,
No,
but that's a lie.
that's a
That's a
lie.
lie on Google.
I don't think
Okay.
even 1% of the population,
Yeah.
Beijing population, they speak.
I think what it is too, though, is that they do have some foundational English, because again, they've been learning it in school, especially younger population.
Yeah.
But they just like any language. If you don't practice it, you're going to lose it. So over the years, they learn at a young age, but then they stop learning it back in high school. Actually, after high school, so they have the basics down. They could say hello, how are you?
But it's
I'm
not
da
that
da
you
da.
can manage with them.
Yeah, you.
Even because I keep telling my Indian friends and Iranian friends, when they come to here, even the taxi driver doesn't know how to say taxi in English.
Yeah. Oh,
That's a horrible thing, right? Even he doesn't know how to say airport. So that's a very genuine problem that we
Yeah.
cannot say China is great. China is in other aspects great, but language again because maybe they don't want to learn. Maybe they want to learn, but they do not have atmosphere, right? Language is a big problem for anyone. Like I mean, the food is good, and I don't want because generally Indian when comes they are most of them are vegetarians, right? And they think there's no vegetable items in China. I mean, I
Oh.
keep telling that you have got more vegetable items here than that you can have in India.
I'll tell you something. Actually, when it comes to the vegetable stuff, I think that the Chinese are the best when preparing eggplant.
Oh yeah,
I
and
I've never had a good eggplant dish in America or anywhere in the West, but for some reason here in
right.
China, the eggplant that they prepare here in China is excellent, excellent.
Actually, it's also the reason because for them, as generally we know that we don't believe in religion, they don't even believe in God. Most of them are atheists. Yes, they supposedly they are supposed to be Buddhist. So they for them, food is very very important, extremely important.
Hmm.
I think they enjoy food. They
Well,
love food.
that there's that saying that they said that the way they say hello
Yeah.
is basically "Have you eaten?" Right? Um,
But I have my own interpretation of that. I would not say it now, maybe in the next visit in India, because it's because of extreme poverty.
well, that's the case there.
I guess because that is
So
pre 1978. That is a
during the
big
famine,
stupendous
yeah.
poverty. Yeah,
Um,
that like I don't want to say this, but I think that would be the case. Otherwise, who greets like that? Have you eaten? You don't say that, right?
well, in America, it's so again for most of us who know American culture, we do something called small talk, right?
Who's that?
So small talk is basically like some random stranger will ask, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah,
Right?
that's
That's
okay.
not a thing here
Yeah,
in China. You just don't randomly say, "How are you?" to a
yeah.
person. Okay? In most languages, you don't do that. Right? But in American English, we
Yeah.
will just if we meet someone on the street or something, or if we're waiting for the train or something or a subway, and we happen to make eye contact or something, and I'll be like, "Oh, hey, how are you today?"
Yeah. So that much we have very much in India. We have a saying that the bus stop that you're standing, you get on the bus, and by the time you reach your destination, you know his
Ah,
entire family.
I've heard about this. Yeah, yeah.
Literally in India, it's like we like to talk. So the first time when I came to China in like 2006, I saw people were not talking to each other. For me, it was big shock. I said, how can this be? It's so rude, man. They don't talk to each other. They don't smile at each other, but they have their own reasons for that. Because I don't know what happened in the past. Of course, the culture revolution thing happened, but in India we have this culture like you meet strangers and you talk to them, and then actually you become friends. In most cases, you become friends. It's very interesting in India.
Again, I think India definitely does have actually some Western influence in there. That's probably where it also comes from. Is just in general, I think overall, I think people are friendly. Just in general, it's just culture changes that, and language kind of changes that.
Yeah.
As we were talking back on topic here, the Chinese here, when you traveled, let's say if we traveled to Beijing, again, Beijing International, Peking International, is an international airport. In most international airports that you go to around the world, they will at least speak one of the languages that you speak. Okay?
Offices
Office as well.
or even the porters, they usually speak, right?
But
But yeah, in China,
once I landed here, I remember, oh, know what? I didn't understand anyone. They didn't understand me. It
yeah,
was a crazy thing.
yeah, and that would be very scary, right?
Yeah, very
Because
intimidating.
for the first time, like first time, it's very intimidating. But if you go and try to meet any officer or anyone at the airport, Chinese airport, then they will be very friendly and try to help you, right? They'll find ways, they'll find interpreter, or they'll find like apps and all that, and they're to help you. But yes, it's very shocking. For example, I land in some, for example, in European country, right? And the whole country, for example, Germany, they don't speak English at all. It will be very, very intimidating for me, and I'll be very what do you say? I'll be very like I would not be willing to go there because it's very difficult, right? So that is why most of the people think China is not safe and China is very scary. It's not at all. It's yes, language is a big problem, but people are
Yeah,
extremely friendly,
when
right?
it comes to the scary things of China,
Mm,
okay, again, we talked about that safety, right?
mm,
Safety, honestly not a concern.
Not a concern at
Um,
all.
it doesn't even like register in my brain